So let's begin today's session. So today we have to start with the different kinds of presumptions, and along with that, one of the most important topic that is dealing with the conclusive evidence under section 116 of the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam. So as we have already discussed, there are two types of presumptions. First one is the shall presumption, where the court is bound to accept that, and another kind is the may presumption, which is the discretionary in nature, where court uses its discretion in a judicial manner whether to take the presumption or not, depending upon the facts and circumstances of the particular case. So the most important thing which we will be doing today is the conclusive evidence. Conclusive evidence means when the party proves one kind of fact and the statute declares that if the party proves that fact, then the court will be bound to accept the other fact which is connected with the proved fact. So in this way, the other party against whom the court has accepted a particular fact is not allowed to give any kind of evidence to rebut that fact. So conclusive evidence का तात्पर्य है अगर पक्षकार एक तथ्य को साबित कर दे, और कानून व्यवस्था में लिखा गया है कि अगर पक्षकार एक तथ्य साबित कर देगा तो दूसरा तथ्य कोर्ट बंधक होगी दूसरे तथ्य को मानने के लिए. सो लेट्स begin with the section 115, which is the shall presumption. It is the dealing with the particular offenses. So let's start. Where a person is accused of having committed any offense specified in subsection 2. So let's enumerate the various kinds of offenses with which section 115 is dealing. So these sections include 147, 148, 149 and 150 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So these all offenses are dealing with the wagering war against government, and along with that it's criminal conspiracy or attempt to commit or abetment of offense under section 149 or 150 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So in case the offense committed is provided under section 147, 48, 49, 50 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and along with that any area declared to be disturbed area under any enactment for the time being in force, making provision for the suppression of disorder and restoration and maintenance of public order, or any area which there has been over a period of more than 1 month extensive disturbance of public peace. So there are two conditions for this kind of presumption. First one is the any offense which is committed is under section 147, 148, 49 or 50 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, and along with that where offense is committed, that area must have been declared under any enactment to be disturbed area. So there are various statutes like National Security Act. So for example, our northeastern side is very disturbed area. So at that place, the government, the state government, enforces various kind of statutes to bring the public peace and to maintain the public order. So first one is that, or any area which has been for more than 1 month there has been extensive disturbance of public peace. How there can be disturbance of public peace? It can be by way of any kind of riots or armed rebellions or any kind of deadly protests. So twin conditions, any of one of condition can be fulfilled. So if area is declared to be disturbed, or if it is not declared to be disturbed, so for more than 1 month there has been disturbance of public peace. So these two conditions are fulfilled, and after that it is shown that such person had been at a place in such area at a time when firearms or explosives were used at or from that place to attack or assist the members of any armed forces or the forces charged with the maintenance of public order acting in the discharge of their duties. ठीक है जी। सो एज ओबवियस आ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਏਰੀਆ ਡਿਕਲੇਅਰਡ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਡਿਸਟਰਬਡ ਏਰੀਆ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਰਮਡ ਫੋਰਸਿਸ ਦਾ ਆਉਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ obvious ਹੀ ਹੈ। तो ਉਹਦੇ ਅਗੇਂਸਟ ਜਦੋਂ when any members who are acting against those armed forces with the help of firearms or explosives, ठीक है जी, so there is a tussle between the armed forces and the offenders who are trying to resist the force of armed forces who are there for the maintenance of public peace. So at that point, if any person who is present at that place when there is action going on between the armed forces and the offenders who are resisting the force of armed forces, it is shown that any person who was present at that area where there is a direct encounter between the armed forces and the offenders, and it is shown that any person who was present at that place, then it shall be presumed. It shall be presumed. It is very important. The court shall presume that the person who was present at that area has committed an offense, any such offense which might be committed during the action. ठीक है जी? So this is the shall presumption. So after that we will be starting with section 116, which is a conclusive evidence in relation to a legitimacy of a child, which is very important. So let's start. The fact that any person was born during the continuance of valid marriage between his mother and any man, or within 280 days after its dissolution, the mother remaining unmarried, shall be conclusive proof that he is the legitimate child of that man. ठीक है जी? So there is one exception also that we will be studying after that. So first, understand what is the conclusive evidence. सेक्शन 116 यह कह रहा है कि किसी भी व्यक्ति का जन्म अगर वैलिड मैरिज के दौरान हो या फिर मैरिज के डिसोल्यूशन के बाद के 280 दिनों में हो, तो यह कंक्लूसिवली माना जाएगा कि उस व्यक्ति का जन्म यानी कि लेजिटिमेसी विल बी अटैच्ड टू दैट father, that man who was the husband of that woman. ठीक है जी? The legitimacy is only relation to a father, not mother. Keep this thing in your mind. ठीक है जी? So it shall be presumed. It is a conclusive evidence. Even the DNA can't rebut that. ठीक है जी? So किसी भी व्यक्ति का जन्म अगर विवाह के दौरान या फिर विवाह के डिसोल्यूशन के बाद 280 दिनों में हो, तो यह कंक्लूसिव एविडेंस है कि वह बच्चा उस व्यक्ति जो कि उसका फादर है उसके साथ वह लेजिटिमेट है, प्रोवाइडेड दैट मैरिज शैल बी वैलिड. एंड सो लेट्स नाउ कम टू द एक्सेप्शन. Unless it can be shown that the parties to the marriage had no access to each other at any time which he could have been begotten. So that's a bit obvious. If the parties prove that, the father proved that he had no access to the wife of that marriage. So for example, the man was living in India, and the wife was living in USA. So there was no access so that they can conceive. So in that case, it shall be a valid exception. Then it is not the conclusive evidence that the child born during marriage, even though there is a valid marriage subsisting between that man and woman, but there was no access to each other, then it shall not be conclusive evidence that the child is the legitimate child of that man. ठीक है जी? So let's start with section 117. That is dealing with the may presumption, that is the discretionary in nature, where the court is not bound to take that presumption. Let's read out. When the question is whether the commission of suicide by a woman had been abetted by her husband or any relative of her husband, ठीक है जी, and it is shown that she had committed suicide within a period of 7 years from the date of her marriage, and that her husband or such relative of her husband had subjected her to cruelty, the court may presume, having regard to all other circumstances of the case, that such suicide had been abetted by her husband or by such relative of her husband. So if there is a suicide of a woman within 7 years of the marriage, and along with that, before the suicide, there was harassment in form of a cruelty by husband or any relative of her husband, then the court may presume that those relatives of her husband or husband has abetted the suicide of that woman. ठीक है जी. So cruelty shall have same meaning in relation to section 86 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So that we will be studying at that point of time when we will be doing the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So after that, there is a section 118 that is dealing with the dowry death. This is the shall type of presumption where the court is bound to take that presumption. There is no option before the court to avoid this presumption. It states that when the question is whether a person has committed the dowry death of a woman, and it is shown that soon before her death, such woman had been subjected by such person to cruelty or harassment, for in connection with any demand of dowry, the court shall presume that such person had caused the dowry death. ठीक है जी. अगर किसी भी महिला की दहेज के कारण मृत्यु होती है, तो अगर यह पाया जाता है कि उस महिला की मृत्यु के पहले उसको क्रुएल्टी के साथ व्यवहार किया गया था. क्रुएल्टी क्यों की गई थी? कि दहेज की डिमांड रखी गई थी. अगर सिर्फ यह साबित हो गया उसकी मृत्यु के पहले उससे क्रूअल तरीके के साथ उसकी दहेज की मांग रखी गई थी, तो देन द कोर्ट शैल प्रिज्यूम दैट सच पर्सन हैड कॉज्ड द डॉरी डेथ. जिस व्यक्ति ने क्रुएल्टी के साथ उसकी महिला के आगे दहेज की मांग रखी, तो यह माना जाएगा कि वह व्यक्ति ने ही डॉरी डेथ कॉज की है. ठीक है जी. So I think that's all for today. Section 116 you have to read in detail each and every word of the section 116. It is very important. So a lot of questions come from that section. So tomorrow we will be completing two types of presumption. One is the may presumption and another one is the shall presumption, and we will try to start estoppel also tomorrow only. So tomorrow we will be doing remaining two presumptions, and along with that we will try to complete the estoppel. So that's all for today. If you find any kind of doubt or inquiry, you can ask me anytime.